Good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 6th of May, 2024. Well done for making it this far. So, we had a good weekend for a change. Well, there was the sad death of Bernard Hill, the actor who played my uncle Hughes in Boys and the Black Stuff, and also King Theoden in Lord of the Rings. He also played the captain in Titanic. A lovely man. One of those characters who, when they pass away, no one's got a bad word to say about them because they were really lovely. Give me a moment. My light behind me has fallen down. Oh, I'll just leave it. Apart from that, we had a really fantastic weekend. The Tories lost 474 council seats. They were blasted into third place by the Lib Dems, which is the result that we want, because we don't want the Tories to be the official opposition. We want them to be destroyed. We want the Lib Dems to be the official opposition. Maybe a Lib Dem Green coalition could be the official opposition. How about that? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Rather than the Tories, who are obsessed with pulling the Overton window further and further to the right. The big result of the weekend, though, was the fact that Andy Street, the West Midlands mayor, quite popular West Midlands mayor, was beaten by Richard Parker, the Tiger from Life of Pi, and he was beaten by about 1,000 votes. It came very, very, very close, and as a result of that, the Tories managed to lose all 11 of the mayoral contests that took place on Thursday, all barring one, which is the Teesside mayor. Unfortunately, Ben Houchen got in. The guy who sold off government land for publicly owned land for a couple of pennies to a consortium that's now making millions out of it. It's not great. It's not a great situation for the people of the Tees Valley. However, in a slightly better bit of news, in places like Middlesbrough and Hartlepool, Labour did a lot better than they've done previously, in the last few years. So anyway, the copium went into absolute overdrive. And we'll get into this a little bit more in a moment. But first, I want to show you the headline of the Daily Mail. Sorry, avert your eyes for those who are, a little bit sensitive to these sort of things. I mean, this is a graphic image to be showing this early in the morning, the front cover of the Mail. This is the Mail on Sunday, right? No word of a lie. It should be here, but it's not. Why is the Mail on Sunday not appeared behind me? This is very embarrassing. This is why are you doing this to me? I see. It's because, yeah. Okay, so this is the cover of the Daily Mail here. And as you can see, this is in the wake of the Tories' biggest local election defeat for a long time. The by-election that took place in Blackpool South saw the biggest swing away from the Tories to Labour as the Blackpool South seat came up for grabs because of the former occupants' proclivities of wanting to take money from a gambling firm in order to steal classified documents, because that's what Tories kind of do, I guess. Anyway, here's the front cover of the Mail from yesterday. Boost health by eating 30 plants a week. Hugh Fernley went to private school. £10 off, number 7 at Boots. When you spend 20... Okay? What's the main story here? As the nation marks first anniversary of his coronation, public say King is doing a great job. Cool. Okay. Definitely something that should be on the front page. Not the fact that the Tories just lost the by-election, just lost over 470 council seats, just lost the mayoralty of the West Midlands. And also, day 30 of Claire, of Angela Rayner's. I don't know. I want to give it the suffix gate, but I don't actually know what it is that she's done, because no Tory MP or paid shill for the Mail can explain it. So I'm just going to call it Angela Gate. Gotta be Northern Scout. Gotta be Northerner, Ginger Northerner Gate, I guess. Maybe we could. I don't know. But this was the cover. This is the most Tory newspaper in the country. and the front cover of their newspaper was like, "Oh dear, we're in trouble. Someone's come along and burst our bubble." So yeah, that was the front cover of the Mail yesterday. The BBC went on to not shower itself in glory as Laura Kunsberg took to the screens, as she has a tendency to do on Sundays for some reason, and she invited on 3 Conservatives to talk about Conservative things. No Lib Dems, no Greens. You know, the Lib Dems who won more seats in this election than the Tories. No. They weren't invited on. Just like Refuck, who got they got 2 council seats. 2 council seats out of over 2,000. They got 2. And yet they were all over the news. They were all over the BBC on Thursday night and Friday as we watched it live. A disgraceful, disproportionate amount of coverage. They came 3rd in the by-election in Blackpool. And just like they did with UKIP back in the run-up to the 2016 fraud-addendum, the BBC seemed set on giving them as much airtime as possible and neglecting the other parties that also did actually did quite well, rather than just gobby billionaires who just going, "I want everything to me." You know, that Tufton Street Heritage Foundation scum. But there you go. So yeah, Laura Kunsberg giving loads of airtime to Tories to say, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad." And the mood music coming from the Tories, not great. Apparently there was going to be a coup attempt, but they decided to go to the pub instead. I don't know. Anyway, and the news today is that Sunak has shelved the summer election. I'm actually going to go back to the papers. Oh, it actually worked. That's good. Now, Sunak shelves summer election. That's in the Telegraph there. And then if we scroll down a bit here, I mean, there's a lot of, like, the Mail's just in denial about the elections. Labour sets sight on blue wall next election. That's in the Guardian. The Daily Express is running at the wall with its head held low. Only big tax cuts and growth can save the Tories now. Nothing can save you now. Literally nothing can save you now. We hate you. We all hate you. We hate the Tories. We hate the gobshites who write for these newspapers. But the more fun one in here, where was it? There was one about maybe I was dreaming. Maybe it was yesterday. We're doomed. Lame duck MP loses Tory stronghold. That was the cover of the Express yesterday. There was one that was like, we're heading for a hung election. Maybe I scrolled past it. Oh, here we go. UK heading for a hung parliament, says Sunak. All right, mate. If you say so. Anyway, right. So yeah, there you go. We're heading for a hung parliament. Are we, Rishi? Are we? Are we really? Because from the polls and the actual polls, so people going to the polls, it looks like you're on for a defeat on the scale of 1997. It could even be a Canada 1993 defeat if we play our cards properly, right? If we play our cards well, if we do tactical voting and make sure that every single Tory seat is up for grabs, and whether it be, like I've said before, whether it be Labour, which is more likely to be the most likely to win in any given seat, but then you've also got the Lib Dems, the Greens, Plaid Cymru, the SNP. Any of those parties, I will take them over the Tories. And there's a lot of discussion about how Refuck are basically stealing these votes from the Tories. And they might do a deal with the Tories. They might team up with the Tories. You never know in the next election. But even if they do that, I can't see them get over the line. Although it will be a lot closer if that happens. I really don't want it to happen. Nigel Farage and Richard Tyson, their privately educated chums in Tufton Street, have done enough damage to this country. Thank you very much. As you'll find this week when you go to the supermarket and see how much the prices have gone up. I don't know if anyone saw Liz Webster on Rees-Mogg, talking to Rees-Mogg recently. Liz Webster is the head of Save British Farming, and she's very anti Brexit. And Rees-Mogg couldn't get his stupid little head around the idea. He kept interrupting her, actually. He couldn't get his head around the idea that goods can come in from India that haven't been checked into Rotterdam and then come straight from Rotterdam into the UK without any checks. And because they've gone through Rotterdam, they're not being checked. He couldn't get his head around this. He said, well, obviously, we should be checking stuff coming from India. It's like, well, it's not coming from India, it's coming from Rotterdam. So we're getting this rotten produce with bugs in it coming from India. But it stops in Rotterdam on the way. And Rotterdam don't care, that in the port they'll take the boxes off one ship and put them on another ship. It's all impounded. It's not going into the EU, technically. It's just being used to unload the stuff and load it onto another ship. It doesn't have to be checked into the EU. He couldn't understand that in the days when it was being checked into the EU, the checks would have been done in Rotterdam, and then it would have been brought to the UK. But that's not happening. We've got these vast warehouses that have been built, these checking facilities at the cost of millions of pounds to the taxpayer, which aren't being used. And we're allowing dangerous food into the country. Blue tongue is already back. And Rees-Mogg was like, well, it means we can get cheap food from Australia. And Liz Webster, you can see her brain like, oh, what the hell? How thick is this man? If we get cheap food from Australia, you're going to undercut British farmers who have to keep to a higher standard than the farmers in Australia. You see, we have higher standards here, so our food costs more to produce. And if we got in direct competition with Australian produced to a lower quality, then Australian produce, then there's going to be a huge problem there, isn't? Well, there is a huge problem there for British farming. And like I keep saying, the setup at the moment is the Aussies can export to us, and we can import from them 20,000 tons of beef a year. And do you know how much we can sell to them? Say it with me. 0. Yeah, 0. Not even a soggy brisket. Anyway, I'm just going to go into the chat for a moment. Oh, no, one thing that I wanted to say before I move on. So what's the government doubling down on now? Transphobia. That's nice, isn't it? Kemi Badenoch in the news today. Apparently, they're going to make it so all new buildings don't have to have solar panels on the roof or anything sensible like that. No, they have to have segregated toilets. Like in the 1950s. In America. Before the civil rights movement. Only that was a different minority that was being discriminated against. Now it's trans people. And is there a proviso in there? Is there an amendment to ensure that the square footage of the women's toilets is twice that of the men's, so there isn't a queue for the women's toilets? You know that thing, architectural sexism? You know how most buildings are made by men, designed by men, with a man's, needs, the ergonomics of a building, how high the door handles are, where the windows are placed, all that kind of stuff. It's all around the physique of a man. Of a 6-foot man. The seating, everything, the tables, it's all around the physique of a 6-foot man. Not a woman, not a disabled person. And the toilets are the biggest example of this. Like, everywhere you go, where there's lots of people, there is always a massive queue for the women's toilets. I went to Wembley Stadium last year to go and see Blair. There was a massive queue for the women's toilets. There was no queue for the men's. Because they had made the square footage of the women's toilets and the men's toilets exactly the frickin' same. And this was a building that was built in the last 25 years. It's not like they didn't know, but no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to have solar panels on the roof. What they're going to do is make it law that when you build a new building, you have to have 2 separate toilets for men and women. A lot of places that I go to in town, like little cafes and things, that are, small, they have one toilet. It's a disabled toilet. It's for men and women. It's got a door and a lock and its own sink inside. Like, I can't think of how you could make that more secure. Literally, you get an entire bathroom to yourself, no matter what your gender, no matter what your status on the trans spectrum, whether you are binary, whether you're a trans man, a trans woman, whether you're cis man, cis woman, doesn't matter. You can use the same toilet. But no, this is the obsession of this Braverman obsession was to be cruel to asylum seekers, cruel to refugees. Let's treat refugees like shit. Her dream was to see them flown away on a magical aeroplane to a far-flung land where they become somebody else's problem. Kemi Badenoch's dream is to be cruel to trans people and to make their lives even more of a misery. And she came out and she said, "Oh, there's girls in schools who are getting, what's it called? Basically urinary tract infections because they're not going to the toilet in their school because they're scared to go." And I'm like, okay, show us the data. Name the school. Where is this happening? Like, where? And what happened to the Tories? Like, sensible libertarianism. Can't you let people design buildings how they want them? I guess to a certain extent. If a fascist wants to make a building that has fascist toilets, well, I mean, I can't really stop that. But if people want to make places where everyone feels included, they're not allowed to do that anymore. But the fascists are still allowed to make their own toilets, paint them red, put swastikas everywhere. I don't know. I don't know what these people want in charge. But the madness of it is, it's like the gambling fallacy, isn't it? When you just keep doubling down. The sunk cost fallacy. The Tories are so balls deep in this stupid idea of like, oh, well, we'll keep everyone distracted with culture wars and we'll go on about trans people and we'll go on about boat people. We'll go on about it. And then they'll all vote for us out of hatred of a minority group. And here's the fact, like, since the 2019 election, since the referendum, over 1 in 10 people who voted Tory are now dead. Voted for Brexit are now dead. Like, they've gone. And the younger generation, no way, are going for this bullshit. They're not going for it at all. When you see a young person on the TV saying, yes, free market capitalism, I like being horrible to minorities, I guarantee they are being paid to have that position by Tufton Street, Heritage Foundation, the Taxpayers Alliance, the IEA, Civitas. Oh my God, there's so many of them. But sometimes it's good to have a few things like Super Chats. Yeah! Thank you very much, Johnny Cobhead, for the first Super Chat of the week. Jerkov Rich Smaug makes me really angry. Grr, what an annoying chap he is. He won't let me vent properly. Yeah, sorry, you're not allowed to swear on the old chat, just in case we get, I don't know, trolls. I don't know why anyone will troll this channel. We're all about peace and love around here. Okay, so I'm going to go on to a few other topics, but first of all, I'm going to jump into the chat because I've been rabbiting on far too long. Lucy's in the chat, and so is Johan, and Job, and Leanne, and Maureen, and Shropshire Chris is in there. Hello, Chris. We've also got Alex and Katrina. Benjamin is in there. Also, Richard Parker had been reported to police on Wednesday. Okay, Benjamin. Colin Baker. I thought Bernard Hill was a Scouser. He was also briefly on I, Claudius, by the way, as a guard who suggested Claudius for Emperor. Yeah, he was a Manc. He was a Manc playing a Scouser. But he's very good. He's very good at it. Gives a job. I can do that. Gives a job. That's honestly been my life. I see like Yozza Hughes as my spiritual, fictional character guide. The Boys in the Black stuff was bloody brilliant. I'm a Sinbad from Brookside. That I think was the last episode of Boys in the Black stuff. Him running around what was then the disused and dilapidated Albert Dock before it got regenerated, just shouting for his wife. I think it was a snapshot of a very particular time in the history of this country and of Liverpool in particular. And Yozza Hughes spoke for a lot of people. I mean, not everyone, not the posh, but when he was like, gives a job, I can do that. Gives a job. And it's why we get a bit pissed off, or Scousers, when people go, yeah, the football matches or something, they make jokes about Scousers not having jobs. Half the population left. In the 70s and 80s, half the population of Liverpool left. In the 60s, the population of Liverpool was nearing 1 million. Now it's not even 500,000 because people left to get work because there wasn't any in Liverpool because the docks closed down. the local mines closed down. We used to have local mining in around Merseyside. There was a decrease in pretty much everything, and as a result, I mean, passenger ships weren't a thing anymore. Don't forget, Liverpool was the way that most people got to the New World. They got to the Americas. That all decreased with the advent of plane travel, and just everything that Liverpool had put its stock into, it's all slowly fallen away. And yeah, Boys in the Black stuff was a really good sort of like I say, a snapshot of what it was like at that time. And obviously I was very young at the time, and I've gone back and watched it since. And the black stuff is tar from the votes, because he used to make the votes. Anyway, moving on. Tory heartthrob Mark Harpist blames the voters. Stupid voters voting the wrong way. Put the X in the wrong box. Liverpool has produced some great actors, but Bernard Hill, he was a mank. Yes, I just said that, Mike. My favourite Liverpool actor is Jodie Comer. What an incredible talent. She is fantastic. I love a bit of Jodie. She was brilliant in, what was the show she was in where she played the assassin? Killing Eve. That was great. Boring is a very underrated part of being a politician. I'll take boring. I'll take boring any day after the gang of clowns that we've had over the last 14 years. Why do women need twice the size? Because cubicles in the toilets take up much more room than the urinals. And this is why there's always a queue for the women's toilets. There's always a queue for the women's toilets. Always. If there's lots of people. I mean, there's no one there. Obviously, there's no queue, but generally speaking. Adrian, thank you very much. Do you think for the £5 super chat, thank you. Do you think the talk of the hung parliament will stop people voting Labour because of the whole coalition of chaos nonsense? No. I think that enough people are annoyed enough with the Tories. Don't forget, I mean, I've said this before, you don't win an election by winning people over to your side. That is very difficult. Just think about people in your life that you have managed to change the mind of about anything. You, not any other circumstance, not any other happenstance, whatever. You have actually managed to change the mind of someone that you know and love. It doesn't happen very often by arguments, you know. Now imagine trying to change the mind of millions of people by knocking on their door when they're not in. I mean, come on, it's not going to happen. The way you win an election, really, and people know this, is you keep your opposition, whoever you're against, you keep their voters at home. You make them not want to vote. Now, the Tories do this by actual active voter suppression. So do the Republicans in America. Whereas Labour are doing it a bit more slyly. They are making themselves not scary to the Tory voters. So the Tories won't vote Tory out of terror of a future Labour government. They're like, oh, okay, they seem fairly sensible. Okay, we'll have a few years of them then. And they stay at home. That's the best possible outcome. I mean, the best possible outcome, obviously, is a Tory voter voting for Labour. That's great. But honestly, they're very few and far between. It's much easier to just not freak people out. The 2019 vote, a huge part of that wasn't anything to do with the popularity of Boris Johnson. They only got 44% of the votes. It was more to do with the unpopularity of Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour front bench at the time, because people didn't want them to be leaders of the country. You know, unfortunately, I would have liked a Labour government, but the fact was they were very, very unpopular, and they freaked people out, and people went to the polls to vote against them. And I think the same thing's going to happen here, where Tory voters are not going to vote, and the rest of us are going to try and do whatever it takes to get that Tory MP out of their seat. So I think tactical voting, which played a factor in this election, definitely will play a massive role in the upcoming general election, and could see the Tories under 100 seats. I mean, it could result in the implosion of the internal collapse of the Tory party as an entity. Bring it on. Bring it on. It's already happened once, 1832, wasn't it? Watch Free Guy. She's good in that too. Yeah, I've watched Free Guy. I watched that a couple of times, actually. Daniel says, we can't swear in the chat, but Graham swears like a tube. What gives? Well, I can't moderate the chat and talk and produce and can't juggle that many things at once. More important than 1997, absolutely. Our friends in the North, says Captain Bart Roberts, as one of the best dramas of all time. It was a 90s drama with Doctor Who, James Bond, Mark Strong, who always likes playing villains, and Gina McKee. It was so good. It followed the lives of four friends from the Northeast over the course of several decades, leading up to the advent of New Labour in the 1990s, and it was several shades of excellent. It was very, very good. You have to admit, one of the reasons he was unpopular was due to how his opinions were misrepresented. No, BUFU, Mike, listen, okay? I don't read the Tory press. I don't read Murdoch's press. Murdoch's mind virus doesn't work on me. Generally speaking, if I see something on the front cover of The Sun, I'm going to believe the absolute opposite. I hate those newspapers. I hate the as we call it, the mainstream media that has got this incredible Tory bias. My problem, and the problem with at least 1 million other people, was that we were going out in London marching against the Tories' flagship policy of Brexit. Their biggest policy they have, the thing that had been sucking all the oxygen out of the political atmosphere for the last few years. And we were not just passive, passively saying, oh, well, it's not a very good thing. We were activists. We were out on the streets marching, and he was nowhere to be seen. He didn't support us one little bit. He actually took the piss by going off to Morecambe to pose with the statue of Morecambe and Wise. Actually, Eric Morecambe, not both of them. He also upset a lot of people by not dealing with anti-Semitism in the Labour Party properly. He downplayed it. And he did that. I mean, I don't know if he's anti-Semitic himself. Didn't matter. What mattered was that two of our Labour MPs in Liverpool, we only got 4 MPs in the whole city of Liverpool, well, 5 arguably, if you include Garston, but let's say 5 MPs. 2 of them walked from the party. They were women. They were Jewish women who said, I can't take the anti-Semitism anymore, and the leadership are doing nothing to help us. What can I say to that? If that had been 2 black women leaving the party because of racism, I would be horrified. If that was happening with Keir Starmer right now, I'd be like, Keir, get out. You're not leading this party properly. This was a huge issue. And he didn't just ignore that happening and say, hardly cared about it. Oh, they're just leaving to go to a new party. Which they didn't do. Well, one of them did, the other didn't. But also, the fact that he went, but it's only 0.00001% of the membership that's doing this. And it's like, that's a horrible way of looking at any big problem, like murder. Oh, well, it's only 500 people in every, 60 million that get murdered. So is it really a crime? I mean, that's 0.0001% of the population being killed by murderers. So, I mean, should we legalize it? Shall we? No, don't downplay it. Address it. And Keir Starmer, you may not like him, but at least he addressed the whole anti-Semitism issue within Labour. And now it's not seen as an anti-Semitic party anymore. And the one thing that Corbyn could have done just before the election is he could have apologised for the hurt caused to the Jewish community when he was being interviewed by Andrew Neil. And I know that Boris Johnson didn't get interviewed by Andrew Neil and because he was scared, he hid in the fridge or something. But he didn't have to. It didn't matter. By then, the damage had been done. He was given the opportunity to apologise for the hurt. Not to say he was, anti-Semitic himself or anything like that. Just to apologise for the hurt. And he refused to do it. And you've got to understand how many people were turned off by that. Even like Labour voters, people who don't read the tabloids, who aren't manipulated by the media. They saw what he did. They saw his actions and the way he behaved and thought, I don't want him as Prime Minister. Wow. Yurash, thank you so much for the €20. That's really kind of you. I've just got a massive super chat. Thank you. Just how many Conservatives can explain voting Tory at this point? The party is so far into la-la land territory, no sane person can identify with them. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They've lost every shred of dignity of any kind of like respect that we should have for these chances, and they're clearly in it for their own ends. And again, just to go back to the whole thing of like, what's the difference between Labour and the Tories? And I often cite accountability. Obviously, the tabloids are going to be on their case every day. The membership, the unions, the shadow cabinet, the other MPs, the Labour MPs will be on their case all the time. And then you've got accessibility. The Labour Party is a lot more accessible. I've been out canvassing with my local MP. It's not difficult. You can go and meet them. Whereas with the Tories, if you're not a millionaire, they're not particularly interested in talking to you or listening to your ideas or having things pointed out to them because they know everything. You know, we're English and the English are best at everything. That's a line from Lord of the Flies. We all know how that ends, with them burning down their little island. Yeah, and the Tories have made this absolutely horrific dog's dinner of everything they've tried to do. I mean, the stuff that has worked has been awful, and the stuff that hasn't worked has been awful as well. Like they've just messed it up as bad as they could possibly mess it up. But when it comes to motivation, and this is sort of one of the big differences between people who go for Labour or the Lib Dems or the Greens, motivation to get involved in politics. With the Tories and with Refuck, it is clearly a financial consideration. It is like, we'll get these people in, I'll get myself in, and then I won't have to pay so much tax. I won't have to do this, I won't have to do that. I'm going in to feather my own nest. Whereas for Labour MPs, that would be mad. If you were going to go into politics to make a load of money, you wouldn't join Labour. Trust me on this one. You really wouldn't join Labour. You would join the Tories. And so, yeah, accountability, accessibility, and also motivation are big factors. Just leaving policies aside for a moment in the big differences between Labour and the Conservatives. And, I don't think Corbyn, don't like the guy, but I don't think he was in it for the money. I don't think he was in it, to win, concessions for the rich. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a Labour MP. So, it's something to say. It's 2024. Corbyn is history. Move on, please. Thank you very much, Nick and Diff. Yes. Graham, do you have no control over the auto mod? Like, how strict is it at the moment? It's so harsh that not even using the R word is allowed. I've set it on. I set it onto like the particularly harsh settings. So it's like the strictest settings. So just using the euphemism, just say unalived. What's the R word anyway? We need you running the place, Graham. When can you take over Rishi Nutsack? No way, Daniel. not me. What's this one? He doesn't really have control if he wants to keep the chat scrolling up the screen. Well, yeah, it comes up on the screen, you see. So if we have a huge problem here at Labour Social with our videos being demonetized. Which is, not great considering all our money comes from these videos. So that's why we need super chats. Maybe I should set it. There isn't a setting for this, but if there was, this would be brilliant. That if you give a super chat, you can swear. Because then we don't need the monetization. Thank you very much to Richard C there. Sunak banging on about hung parliament could easily drive more people to vote Labour or Lib Dem. Yeah, I hope it does. I really hope it does. I hope it pushes people to vote strategically, vote tactically, I should say, in this election. And hopefully, we've got 5 years after this election until the next one, and hopefully the war drums towards proportional representation will get so loud by then, we might actually have some form of proportional representation by 2029, or even better, well, no, that would be the best thing, but or it will be part of the Labour manifesto in 2029. The Conservatives might not even be a party by then. Who knows? But also, we don't want. Well, I don't want a hung parliament, and I'll just sign off in a moment because I've realised I've gone 7 minutes over time. I don't want a hung parliament. I think that'd be the worst of all possible worlds. It would mean that Labour would get in for a few months. Maybe they'll have another election. I don't know, but it would mean they'll be hamstrung trying to do anything, trying to get any policies through, they will not only be completely beholden to some of the wingnuts in the party. Every party has wingnuts, but also the wingnuts of another party as well. Good luck with that. And the other party would invariably be the Lib Dems. And although I'm a supporter of proportional representation, it can't really work in a first past the post system. It just doesn't work properly that way, I don't believe. I don't see why a party that's only got, say, 15% of the vote has a veto power over everything that the party that got 45% of the vote wants to do. See what I mean? It's like, yeah, I understand there's sort of more of a supply and confidence deal, but we've had two coalition governments in the last 14 years. We had the Lib Dem Conservative coalition, and we saw how well that ended. And also we had the short-lived 2 years of the Tory DUP supply and confidence motion agreement, which gave us Brexit. Essentially, it gave us the red lines, the Brexit red lines, which has resulted in the state of the nation that we're living in at the moment. We do not want a hung parliament. But also, there's a lot of stuff Labour needs to be getting on with. The big two E's, which is, first of all, the economy and the environment. And I know some people might put environment first because it is an absolutely cataclysmic situation that we are facing at the moment in the world because of climate change and these oil companies pumping out their noxious, toxic gases all over the planet and pumping out, copious amounts of bullshit. Anti-electric car memes, which just blow my mind because it's like, yeah, I know it's not going to fix traffic, but it's a lot. The comparison between getting your energy out the ground in Libya and bringing it over off the coast of Libya and bringing it to the UK and refining it and then putting it into your car is crazy when you can literally pluck it from the air and transport it to your car at the speed of light. And I know that electrons don't travel at the speed of light. I know how it works, magnetic fields, whatever, but the situation is that you can take that power from this country and deliver it to you in your home or outside your home. I guess you don't park in your living room. But if Labour are going to do what needs to be done with the environment, with the economy, also with education, house building, the chronic state of the NHS, they've got so much stuff to do and they need to be able to do it. That's it. I mean, it's not optimal. I don't think it is. But at the same time, I can't see Keir Starmer and the Labour Party running off into the wilds of free market capitalism rather than actually sorting out the problems that are facing this country. Because if they don't fix these problems immediately when they get in, nothing's going to kick in for a few years. And then when it comes to 2029, Labour will get their arses handed to them by possibly some kind of horrible mutated thing that is half refuck, half Tory party, half the wingnuts of the Tory party. And they will get into power in 2029. And that is a danger that we can't afford. We can't afford, not at this point in human civilization. We're at a critical juncture at the moment because of the climate. If we don't pack it in, if we don't stop our addiction to oil, then all bets are off. All bets are off. And I watched the TV show Fallout, and it was good. It was really good. I really recommend it. And I was sitting there going, but would corporations purposefully cause the end of the world? Because then there's no one to buy their products. And then I thought about what BP and Exxon and Shell are doing, and I thought, oh, yeah, I don't think they think that far ahead. Anyway, danger, Will Robinson. My arms are flailing wildly. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Labour Social on Morning Brew. Phil will be back in the morning, Phil Morehouse, at 9:30 for another roundup of what's been going on in the news. But all in all, it's been a good weekend for the forces of good. That is Labour and also the Lib Dems and also the Greens. I've had a really, really, really good weekend. Refuck have had a terrible weekend. They won 2 councillors out of 2,000, and the Tories have had a particularly torrid time of it. Although they're panicking so badly they can't even think of another leader now. They're just like, oh no, let's just go into the election. And I think there's talk of a couple of Tory MPs defecting to Labour, which I don't have a problem with, and I don't have time to explain that right now, but I will later in the week. But also, there's going to be a lot of Tory MPs saying they're not going to be standing at the next election. I reckon there's going to be way over 100 by the time the election rolls around of them just saying, I'm not going to do it because they know they're going to lose. And what's the point of humiliating yourself like that? Which is sad in a way because I kind of look forward to watching them cry in a leisure centre at 3 a.m. 2 a.m., 1 a.m. No, it's such a landslide. Let's say midnight. Let's say they've counted them all by midnight because it's so obvious that the Labour candidates won. Can't wait. Right, give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chat. And hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.